What's going on, everybody? Jay Howe here, and in this Diablo 3 Crusader build, we're going to go over the Hammerdin build. I'm going to talk about why this is so much fun and a nice change of pace to be able to hit the top of the leaderboards going into Season 8 and patch 2.4.3. I'm going to cover the skills, the gear, and everything you need to know to be as effective as possible. First things first, you're going to be using Blessed Hammer, and you're going to be using the Limitless rune. One, this makes it holy damage, which is kind of important, but you also have the chance to spawn another hammer, which just means more damage, especially when you're going to be spamming hammers non-stop. Then we look at Iron Skin. Your skin turns to iron, absorbing 50% of all incoming damage for 4 seconds. Now, this is pretty key. This is going to be on a pretty quick cooldown. Yes, it's 30 seconds, but your cooldown reduction plus the items you're going to be using are going to make this come around much quicker. So mitigating a lot of that damage is pretty important. And then also the fact that you're going to be in the middle of stuff. Taking damage while Iron Skin is active means that you can move through enemies unhindered. Kind of important, especially when you're in those greater rifts. And it ties together really well with Falling Sword, because Falling Sword we'll get to in the gear on why you're going to be using this so often, because it's going to be able to mitigate damage. But being able to launch yourself in the air, throw down some damage, and do a whole lot of stuff and incapacitating them for 5 seconds, kind of key there. This is pretty important. So you're going to be using this. Falls directly into Blessed Hammer. You get that holy damage, stuff like that. So the synergy is starting to come together. Next up, Provoke with Hit Me. Taunt all nearby enemies and instantly generate an additional 5 wrath for every enemy taunted. Plus, you gain 50% increased block chance with this. So the key here is that you're going to be spamming hammers so fast that you're going to be using this on cooldown. It says 20 seconds, but you're going to be able to use this every couple of seconds. And again, we'll get to that. This is very, very important to the build in general. Laws of Valor with Critical. You're always pretty much going to use Laws of Valor in any build or any law, so to speak, and this just fits really well into what you're trying to do passively, granting you and your allies increased attack speed, which means more damage, and then the crit damage, of course, ever so key. Next up, Akarat's Champion Prophet. It's just really good to have here. Obviously, we know the value of this, being able to increase your damage, have this pretty much almost always up, and to be able to use this, and of course, be able to come back if you take fatal damage. For the passives, Holy Cause is pretty crucial to the build. We already talked about the holy talents between Blessed Hammer and Falling Sword. Whenever you deal holy damage, you heal up to 1% of your total life, and you're going to be spamming a lot of those hammers, and they're holy, and this is one good way to make sure you stay alive in the team fights. Fervor, when wielding a one-handed weapon, your attack speed is increased by 15%, and all cooldowns are reduced by 15%. So not only are you getting more hammers out, more attacks, but you're also lowering your cooldown reduction, which again ties into a lot of what you need to make this build work. Blunt, increase the damage of Justice and Blessed Hammer by 20%. Pretty self-explanatory to be able to do that extra damage. And then Finery, we know how well this works for the Crusader. Gain 1.5 strength for every gem socketed into your gear. Pretty easy to see why this is so valuable. All right, so when we talk about the gear, there's going to be a couple of key items that are going to be necessary outside of the set bonus. First things first, Johanna's Argument. This is huge because obviously this increases the attack speed and damage of Blessed Hammer by 100%. Obviously, this is crucial. The one thing you want to make sure of is that you do get the cooldown reduction on this as well as the socket. The cooldown reduction on a weapon can go up to 10%, which is pretty critical in reaching the cap that you need to be able to keep your cooldowns on very short cooldowns and be able to keep 100% uptime on other abilities. On the other side, your shield, Guard of Johanna. Blessed Hammer damage is increased by up to 250% for the first 3 enemies it hits. This works really well when you get on the Rift Guardians, and obviously there's not a lot that you're going to get value out of, so being able to hit and do burst damage to the first 3 enemies it hits is pretty crucial. So the weapon and the shield, pretty important. When you look at the bracers, Gabrielle's Van Braces, when your Blessed Hammer hits 3 or fewer enemies, up to 100% of its wrath cost is refunded depending on how you roll that. Again, works really well when you're on the Rift Guardian. Being able to get holy damage as an extra damage bonus on here can be key, but being able to keep the main stats, of course, is going to be your main focus. For your belt, the Sacred Harness is a great choice. Judgment gains the effect of the Debilitate rune and is cast at your landing location when casting Falling Sword. not a bad choice there for the obvious reasons to be able to make use of that. So that's going to be your belt. When it comes to your rings, first things first, we'll talk about the convention of elements. This just does so much damage, especially when it cycles through to that holy part. And to be able to do that extra damage, that's its main functionality, and that's what you're going to get out of it. On the other side, the Compass Rose is going to pair really well with the Traveler's Pledge. While moving, damage taken is reduced. While standing still, damage is increased by up to 100%. This just goes in to compound the effect that you're going to be standing in the middle of enemies after using your falling sword and then unleashing hammers on your enemies. So it's really good to make sure that you're getting most use out of that. If you can stand still and bump that up, obviously it works, but if you have to move, it's not a bad trade-off. So min-maxing there, not standing in the wrong thing, and being able to be stationary at the right times will increase your speeds in rifts. Now, when it comes to the set, you're going to be using the full 6-piece bonus of the Seeker of the Light. And this is huge because the 2-set bonus, every use of Blessed Hammer that hits an enemy reduces the cooldown of Falling Sword and Provoke by 1 second. Now, obviously, Provoke is where you're going to be able to regenerate your Wrath by using that, and it will be around basically whenever you need it. This just works really well. Falling Sword, on the other hand, the exact same thing. But first things first, the 4-set bonus. You take 50% less damage for 8 seconds after landing with Falling Sword. So this is key in that this is going to be on a short cooldown now, plus you have that damage mitigation. And that's why it's so crucial to be able to have this bonus and paired with all the abilities that we already talked about. And then you look at the 6-piece bonus, increase the damage of Blessed Hammer by 1,250% and Falling Sword by 500%. Obviously, you're using Blessed Hammer and you're spamming it as much as possible. So the clear-cut answer is, hey, you're going to get more damage and you're going to have better clears. So overall, you see the synergy, you see the heals, you see the cooldown reduction, you see all the things that are going to keep your abilities up. Now, when it comes to the Akarat's Champion and things like that, you're going to want to make sure, as I stated, to have the 10% cooldown reduction on your weapon. Furthermore, you're going to want cooldown reduction on your shoulders, gloves, and hopefully 1 ring, and then of course putting that into your Paragon points as well. When it comes to the cube, there's going to be some very important items that go in here, namely the Faithful Memory. Each enemy hit by a Falling Sword increases the damage of Blessed Hammer by 60% for 10 seconds, max 10 stacks. Now, on the armor side, Hammer Jammers, this is a no-brainer. Enemies take 400% increased damage from your Blessed Hammers for 10 seconds after you hit them with a blind, immobilize, or stun. That goes back to the talent choices that you use whenever you use Falling Sword. So pretty important there. And then, of course, the cooldown reduction, again, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you hit with a resource spending attack. You will be spamming hammers at a non-stop fast pace, so you're going to get really good value out of this ring in the jewelry slot. When it comes to the legendary gems, Bane of the Stricken obviously is going to be great. When you get to higher, greater rifts, Bane of the Stricken offers so much more value because you're going to be attacking a lot of the same enemies because of their high health pools, especially when you're on Rift Guardian. So super important there. On the other side, Bane of the Trapped. This will allow you to have a status effect on things that are around you, and it increases the damage that are under that effect of control and parrying effects. And you can just stack this up, and you're going to be right in the middle of battle. So twofold, you're getting a huge advantage by using Bane of the Trapped, and those around you will get hit extra hard by the hammers. And last but not least, this is the one that kind of makes it work, and this is probably prioritized a little bit higher than the others just because of what it does. Gogok of Swiftness. You gain swiftness with every attack and increase your attack speed. But once you have this at level 25, you gain 1% cooldown reduction per stack of swiftness. So keeping this up, getting that extra cooldown reduction, and you use that with the other gear that you have with the cooldown reduction and your Paragon points, you now are going to find that all of your abilities are going to be on very short cooldowns, and you should have 100% uptime, especially on your Akarat's Champion. It's really the only way to go. So a lot of key abilities are going to be there based on where you've spec'd your gear, where your Paragon points are, and of course the legendary gems. That does it for this Diablo 3 Crusader Hammerdin guide. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know how far you're getting in this next season, Season 8 and 2.4.3. And guys, if you want to check out more videos, be sure and subscribe and look out for more Diablo videos on the way. As always, I appreciate you watching. Till next time, happy hunting. See you again.